Hi, thanks for coming back to the chopping block. If you subscribe to my channel for gun stuff and you don't want to see anything that doesn't have anything to do with guns, well, here's your chance to get out, because this video doesn't have anything to do with guns. This is going to be about ham radio stuff. Okay, if you're still around, thank you for sticking around. I think that ham radio has a lot of things in common with gun stuff, in that kind of tends to attract the same kind of people, and for some of the same reasons, as far as we want to be able to take care of our families, we want to be prepared for emergencies and all that sort of thing. Now, relax, I'm not going to turn my channel into a ham radio channel. I probably won't be doing very many more videos on ham radio stuff, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I did want to cover a few things in real general terms, because a little while back, the Woom channel did one of his TAC Pack videos, and in it was one of these UV5R radios. A lot of people had a lot of questions about it, and I wanted to get some of the most common stuff out of the way. I wanted to address some of the more common questions that people might have about ham radio. The two things that come up the most often are, how hard is it to get a license, and how useful is it in practical terms? Let's cover the shorter, easier question first. It's really easy to get a license. It costs $15, and you take a test. You have to get 80% on the test. The test is not highly technical. Most people that I've seen take the practice test get 60% on it without studying for it at all. Just what you know already is probably enough to score 60% on a 4-question multiple guess test, which is a lot better than a blind retarded monkey would do. In other words, it doesn't take much to study a few questions, get up to speed. There are several practice tests out there that actually include all of the real questions that are on the real actual test. So you're not just covering the study material, you're studying the questions that will be on the test. It's real easy to pass. The second issue is, how useful is it? People ask, how far can I transmit with a ham radio? Well, that's a big question. And for those of you that know a lot about ham radios, you understand that I'm going to generalize a little bit. But to make it really simple, when you first start getting into ham radio, you'll probably buy something like this. It's $30 for this guy on Amazon. It's a little 5-watt HT, or handy talkie. It can reach out pretty far. It's substantially more powerful than those little blister pack radios you see at Walmart. An FRS radio can only transmit at half a watt, so this is literally 10 times more powerful. That matters, but not as much as it matters that you can remove the antenna. That is what makes a really big difference in a ham radio handy talkie, or walkie-talkie if you will, because you can attach a much more efficient antenna. This antenna here is called a Rollup JPole, and is far more efficient than this little rubber duck here. It costs about $20, or you can make one for practically nothing. What you do is you attach a longer length of coax with this. You keep this rolled up, and you can roll it up pretty nice and tight. You can keep that in a cargo pocket, in your pack, in your truck, or whatever. And if you're out in the backcountry, somewhere you don't get cell phone reception, or if you want to talk to a hunting buddy or whatever, most of the time in most terrain, this little rubber duck antenna will cover enough distance to cover you for pretty much anywhere that you would normally walk to and from. If there's some terrain in between, or if you get way out there, you can use a more efficient antenna, and that'll get you a lot of distance. Depending on a lot of conditions, it's reasonable to expect that you could talk to another radio like this with this antenna. If you take a rock, tie it to a piece of 550 cord, and throw it up over a tree branch, assuming that you don't have a mountain between you, you could talk to another person set up the same way a good 20-30 miles away. You can go a lot further with a repeater. A repeater does exactly what it sounds like. It's a big, tall tower with an antenna on top and a more powerful radio, and it hears you transmit on one frequency and then broadcasts it back out on another frequency, which allows you to get much further out, because it's way up in the air, hundreds of feet up there on a tower. If you use a repeater, it's reasonable for you to get, well, it depends, 50 miles or more is not unheard of. And also, repeaters are often linked to each other, so you can contact one repeater and it relays the transmission via internet to another repeater hundreds of miles away. To keep it simple, using a radio like this, you've got a lot of options. You can contact another radio like that directly, it's called simplex. You can contact another radio like this through a repeater across significant distances. And probably the most important thing that you can do with this sort of radio in normal bad circumstances, that is not apocalyptic times, but maybe you're in the backcountry and you have a breakdown and you don't have cell service, the thing that I've found it most useful for on several occasions is that you can use it to do what's called an auto patch. If you can touch one of those receivers, many of them have auto patch on them, which allows you to call any phone that's within a local call from that tower. So essentially, you get what amounts to a cell phone that has much greater coverage. Use the keypad on there and you dial into the repeater, and then you can call anybody with a phone. They don't have to have a ham license or anything like that. You can call for help. Now, there's a lot more to cover. This isn't meant to be comprehensive by any means, but I did want to answer some of the key questions, which is it hard to get the license? The answer is no. Is it useful? Absolutely. You should absolutely have one. The other corollary to that a lot of people say is, well, why don't I just buy one and not get a license? Because, well, it is legal to transmit in an emergency without a license. You need to be able to practice with the radio to be effective with it, and to do that legally, you have to have a license. Now, I'm sure you have a lot more questions. Please leave comments below. I'd love to answer all your questions. Understand I'm not an expert myself, but I've been doing it for a few years, so I can probably answer most of your questions, and I'll leave some links in the description. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.
You got